Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ceres podcast. I'm your host Stelios, and today I'm joined by David Miller, Mark Petru and David Nicolau for another one of our much loved Podsquad episodes. These are always a brilliant mix of ideas, opinions and a bit of good-natured back and forth, and judging by your messages you enjoy these episodes as much as we do. Quick heads up, Kelly Barnes couldn't join us for this episode. She's quite frankly done her back in and currently getting some physio to sort it out. If you know Kelly, this won't surprise you as the woman never stops. We're sending her our best and we can't wait to have her back on the microphone soon. In this episode, we're diving into the 7p fish and chip giveaway at Harry Ramsden's in Bournemouth, what makes Chez Fred such a standout restaurant and fish and chip shop, and no, it's not just a location. The VAT campaign, is it time for a reality check? Why fish and chips still offer great value, and never has stopped if I'm honest. Are trade bodies missing the mark when it comes to social media coverage, and the power of visiting other fish and chip shops, especially with your kids in tow. Before we get stuck in, just a quick reminder, if you want to stay in the loop with new podcast episodes, special offers, competitions, updates from Ceres, make sure you're on the WhatsApp announcement group or the Ceres mailing list. No spam, no fluff, just all the good stuff, and you'll find all the links in the episode show notes. We've had some great feedback, as always, on the Ceres calculators. They're really popular. We can see how many times they're being used, whether it's for fish pricing, VAT calculations, food costings, fish cake yields. Thousands of you are using these every week. And if you haven't yet, they're there, ready to help you sharpen your margins. And now, this episode is proudly sponsored by my latest creation, Ceres Heavy Duty Descaler. Off the back of the popular deep fry cleaner and heavy duty degreaser, this is built for the toughest cleaning jobs in your kitchen. This fast acting or slow, depending on how you use it, professional strength descaler cuts through stubborn limescale in kettles, coffee machines, bain-maries, dishwashers, taps, you name it. Like I said before, you can use it fast or slow, cold or hot, whatever suits the job. It's mega tough on scale, but really gentle on your equipment. Absolutely safe on stainless steel, delicate on the parts with no harsh fumes. It's fast acting and adaptable, odorless and antimicrobial, kills off bacteria like E. coli and salmonella, extends equipment life massively and massively helps to cut your energy costs. We quietly launched this last week and it's already flying off the shelves. As always, we're always working on new products. So if there's something you'd like us to look at or make next, let us know and it could be the start of something new. And a quick stock update, the Ceres curry sauce is back in flow after a recent surge in demand. I'm really grateful for everyone's patience. We're now producing a lot more to keep up with the higher rate. Pre-dusts are also moving really fast, so we're having to sort of slow down things there a little bit, and the fish cake mix is currently out of stock, but don't worry, we're manufacturing a lot more to restock as quickly as possible. But if you do want it, get your order in, because we are going to be shipping it on a first come first served basis. If your order isn't in, we won't ship it. Right, let's dive in to this episode of the Ceres Podsquad. Morning, everyone. How are we doing?
Morning. Radiant. Absolutely radiant, sir.
Champion.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
You were tempted, weren't you, Mark? You were really tempted.
You were going to say golden, weren't
you? How was everyone's long weekend?
Long.
Too long or just long?
Yeah,
was it long and nice?
Yeah, it was nice time with the kids. It was lovely.
Oh, nice.
I was working in the trailer at Malton Food Festival, and it's apparently billed as the Glastonbury of food festivals.
Okay. Any good food there?
Yeah, there was some really trendy stuff, yeah.
What did you eat?
we did poutine, so that was totally different.
So you gave that a swerve then?
Well, I had loads of coffee, quite a few beers from the bus that was next door to
Sounds
me.
like we were just talking about a liquid diet a few minutes ago.
There was some Yorkshire crisps. I had some of them, and a bit of Thai food. So yeah, it was good. No, it was,
David, is it patchy at all? Any recollection of your events? Were you actually working? Or?
Yes, I was. Look, I've got a burn there.
Down in the bin at 4:30 in the morning.
There. No, it was good. It was run really well, and the weather was very kind to us. We just had a little bit of rain. Everybody was in a good mood. We set up on the Friday night, and everybody was in a great atmosphere. You know, when you get somewhere and it felt good. So, yeah, it was really, really well organised. And
was everybody as well oiled as you?
It would be very unprofessional for me to comment on that.
Did you specifically ask to be put opposite a gin trailer and next to a beer stand? Was that,
How have we not actually? That is a fair point. Like with Nick doing all of these food brands, what we haven't seen yet is an alcoholic beverage brand. Is that because Nick doesn't want to get involved with alcohol, or the fact that someone might get high off their own supply?
Well, I always hide it when he turns up. Somebody says, Nick's here. So
He runs and hides it. I can imagine that. Yeah.
No,
well,
imagine you have a Barry Dickman hip flask somewhere.
Someone bought me a hip flask, and
It was me.
Yes, exactly, and I like it a lot.
It's such a memorable present.
I don't want to use it at the risk of people calling me an alcoholic. Like, I remember once we were at a trade event.
They've called you worse behind your back.
That is true. They've called me worse to my face. But I remember once we was at, I think it was a Chip Chat Ball, because it was definitely Peterborough a few years ago, and we're at the bar, and Charlie Collins just gets out a hip flask and starts swinging out of it, and I was like, that looks so cool. And then Mark's bought me one, and now I'm just like, I want to use it, but it's proudly on display somewhere up there behind me. I just the thought of someone saying to me, all right, mate, what's in there? Whiskey. Yeah, like, I just feel, yeah.
Oh, well, don't worry, mate.
Don't worry, we know. Yeah. So, it was my birthday weekend, and we went to Bournemouth. Friday, Saturday. It was my birthday on Sunday, and we're in Bournemouth, just chilling out, having a coffee before we're about to take the kids to the beach, and we noticed this real long queue formulating, and I turn around and I think, oh fuck's sake, the queue is for I thought it was for mini golf, and I thought we were going to take the kids mini golf, and I thought, can't be asked for that now, there's a big queue. So I look at the queue and I thought, that can't be for mini golf, it just doesn't make sense. So I just think, you know what, I'm going to walk down the queue and see where it begins. And I walk down, and what do I see? It's the queue for Harry Ramsden's. And I thought to myself, okay. And at first we're just looking at each other thinking, what the hell? And then I see a couple of signs that say 7p offer for a celebration. Now, this isn't a small site. I think before Papa's or with Papa's, it's probably classed as one of the biggest fish and chip sites in the UK. And it was the queue. It must have been. I sent a few of you the video, maybe not all of you, but then I may have done, and David probably ignored
I've
it.
seen it.
No,
Yeah,
I meant David
was,
Miller. He ignores all the videos I send him.
Yeah.
And but it was a long queue. I reckon at least 300 strong.
Wow.
For 7p fish and chips, and there was security personnel. There was a couple of guys walking up and down the queue asking if people had Rizzlers. The fish and chips for 7p, you know, like, you wouldn't complain. They didn't look amazing.
The fish and chips?
You know, like, I'm not going to lie, they didn't look amazing. They didn't look bad, but it was 7p. Like, look, what are you going to say? Like, I don't know what that would have been normally there. Probably in the 12, 13 quid mark, I guess. So
a pot of curry was £8.
Imagine that.
I'd still go to Chez Fred's, which is also in Bournemouth, and pay 20 quid rather than 7.
It wouldn't cost you 20 quid at Chez Fred's, but I get your point too. Yeah.
Do you know if they did that around the other sites? Like
no, I think this was just something to do with their Bournemouth site, and it's probably something to kick off the season.
Have they refitted it and reopened it?
Could be that too. It looked nice.
I'm sure I read something. I might be wrong. I'm sure I read something about it being refitted and reopened.
Yeah, it was a success for them nonetheless. You know, teenagers waiting in the queue got their fish and chips, and then started lobbing the rest of their chips and fish to the seagulls.
Seagulls.
The seagulls did well out of that. Kids will waste anything, won't they? And but we didn't have fish and chips because we were going to Chez Fred's later that evening. But I was interested of your thoughts of like a deal like that. Is that so? That is a marketing thing. That's not a special offer to drum up business. That's just a marketing event, surely.
That's got to get you on the front page of a newspaper.
Yeah, and I guess it is a marketing cost, isn't it? Yeah. Like now, whether those people go back there again, who knows? But it's a marketing thing, And I bet lots of people like me took videos of people in the queue, and they had photographers there, and it looked like they were making a bit of fun out of it. And like Mark said, people still bought curry sauce and peas and.
Years ago, when my dad ever opened a new shop, and he'd had, he's opened 5 or 6 in his time, he always used to put some silly offer on, and then we were hammered for the first sort of few days, and then we never saw those people again. They just seem to be they'll probably crawl across a field of broken glass for fish and chips for 7p, whereas. But we'll never see him again. But it makes headlines, and we're sat here talking about it, aren't we? So it's worked.
Yeah, well, absolutely. We are here talking about it, and well done to them. If then they've got lots of other sites that can carry that.
Others do the same thing, don't they?
And you see Mother Hubbards do a lot of that as well. Mother Hubbards do a lot of that, and and look, it's a marketing exercise. So. I guess if you there was a YouTuber there called Mr. Wiz or Mr. Was. He had gold boots on, sitting out the front. Like I can't remember. He had like a king, like a crown on top of his head. Like he looked very ostentatious. But I was going to say, if you're probably going to do something like that, you probably want to invest a little bit in getting some of these social media stars there, some bloggers to maybe get it out to a few more people. But I wasn't feeling fish and chips that day, if I'm honest, as in that daytime, because I knew I was having it in the evening. But I wouldn't wait in the queue. My time's worth more than that. Genuinely, I always have this argument with myself, time versus money, because they're both the same thing in the end. It's just which way you're paying for it, Yeah. And
can I tell you about my my bank holiday weekend?
Yeah.
I because I think if you're a dad out there who's got a child at university, I think my weekend could be me telling you this story might be really useful to you. I worked the first 2 days. I worked Friday and Saturday in the chippy, and they were both busy days. I needed to be there, and which actually I was really grateful for, because I went to see my eldest in Bristol, who's a student, and I knew as soon as I got there she was going to fleece me. I knew it. I knew that she was. I was going to leave poorer, and it was lovely, really lovely to see her. But Bristol was glorious this weekend. It was sunny. I had a Hawaiian shirt on, new pair of sunglasses. Really trying to slip into the whole student. Trying to fit in, trying to blend in. We went to a few cafes, went down to the dockside, which has been regenerated, looks really, really good.
Can I interrupt? If you really wanted to blend in, just smash a statue and stick it in the harbour.
That is what they do in Bristol, to be fair.
That's what they do in Bristol,
we did. It was really good. But my 2 bits of advice is walk slower or faster than your kid. Either be ahead of them or be behind them, and pretend to be deaf, because I'm at an age now where I can not hear things, and I got away pretty much with not having to spend too much money.
Yeah, just keep walking. Yeah. Keep walking. Whatever shop they're going, just keep walking.
Exactly. So that's my bit of advice.
I do.
It was lovely to see her. She was really happy, really well. Looked like she'd been eating, it was a lovely weekend, but So that was,
I love spending time in Bristol. It's a great place.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like London without the fear.
Well, I imagine there was lots of fear years ago.
Yeah, maybe.
Why was there lots of fear years ago?
Well, it was the slave trading port. So Bristol was very well known for it. Yeah. So Cabot Circus, that's named after John Cabottini. A lot of the boats landed there.
Colston statue.
Yeah.
Hence why.
Yeah. So, but no, it's an amazing place. I like Bristol a lot, and look, a lot of great places have come from dark places. That's just the way it goes. Liverpool would have been similar. Bristol's like that. Yeah.
I've never been.
You should go. It's nice. I like.
It's really, it's
I've
super
been to
cool.
Portbury Docks for 12 hours and then came back. That was it.
Yeah.
For the size of it, it actually feels quite rural.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel
does.
urban
It does.
at all.
Yeah. And maybe it's the
really
accent of people there as well.
Yeah,
Maybe that helps as well. That
it's
makes you
very laid back.
Go on,
Hello, lover.
All right, my lover.
My lover. Tell us about Chez Fred, Stel.
Chez Fred, if you've never heard about it, guys, it's a fish and chip takeaway restaurant in Bournemouth, in Westbourne, actually. And now, a lot of people say to me, oh, it's no surprise Fred's busy. He's in Bournemouth. He's right next to the sea. Now, I had that illusion before I met Fred. Now, I only knew Fred, or at least of Chez Fred, before I met him through you, Mark. I didn't know him really. I just knew from what you wrote in the book and what you'd said about him. So I had this illusion that Bournemouth is by the sea. Westbourne is not by the sea. It is if you look at it from Google Earth, but it's not by the sea at all. In actual fact, it couldn't be any... if you drove past that shop and it was empty and you thought, would this make a good chip shop or restaurant? You'd probably say no. It's got terrible
It's not on
parking.
the road to anywhere. Yeah.
It's essentially on a one-way system, a slowish one-way system, but it's always moving, with almost no parking, or at least timed parking. And there are actual attendants that will give you a ticket just for standing there looking funny. It's a very strange thing, because a lot of people would say, oh, he's only busy because he's next to the sea, but he's not. His product is, great, and he works it really hard. But, there was a really good queue there. Like, we got there, it was busy. It was... What time was Saturday at like 5:30 we got there, 5:45, it was rammed. The restaurant was rammed, takeaway was rammed. Constantly bustling, like inside as well. You get in, and I do quite like it because it feels like a proper restaurant. And I know this might sound silly, but sometimes you go to restaurants and they just feel like an empty room with tables and people eat food in it. It feels like a bit like a school cafeteria where they just put the tables out. There's a lot of loudness and reverberation, but not here. It just feels right. And the last time I'd had fish and chips was New Year's Eve at Noah's in Bristol, talking to Bristol. And so I've not had fish and chips for ages, so I really fancy them. Had fresh hake and chips. I think it was Cornish hake. Everything was brilliant. The kids ate it, the wife ate it, everyone was happy. Like, the food was great. The desserts were brilliant. Homemade ice cream, I had a dessert. I treated myself because I've been, as you all know, we've all been trying to be really good this year, and I've been really trying to be good. So it's one of those places that, I've ended up being there twice now on two nice occasions. Once was before the refit, and that was for a stag do for my brother-in-law. And again, I didn't really know Fred then. Like, we didn't supply him, didn't really know him, but he sorted us out. He sorted out nice, because it's not a place. When I say he sorted us out with a table, because there isn't a lot of space in the old restaurant, and he sorted us out a table for like 8 of us, I think, and there were 6 of us this time. But yeah, just the food is bang on. Like, and if anybody knows Fred, like, he's someone who really cares. Like, the food's just brilliant. The way he runs that place is, we were there with you, Mark, early in the year, and the food's just brilliant. And I do think we should go as a pod squad. I really think we should go and eat there because it is just really good.
It's can I jump in?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
I love it. I love Chez Fred, and it's not one thing. It's hundreds and hundreds of little things.
Yeah.
The same retail is detail. There's just swathes of it when you go there. For me, it's like visiting a favourite aunt.
Yeah.
It's always a great experience. Very, very good fish and chips. Up there.
I know. We walked out and we've had lots of fish and chips in lots of places. And Alex said to me, "That's my son," and he said to me, "Dad, that's the best fish and chips I think that I've ever had." And I think he means the whole experience, as opposed,
it's the experience. The hospitality is always on point.
Yeah, the girl that served us was impeccable. Like, the service was great. It felt, it was right. And look, also, it helps that we were looking forward to it. It helps that it's a friend's fish and chip shop. All of these things also help. But
you feel like you belong in there. That's what he does so well.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your walk of life is. When you walk in, you feel at home.
Yeah.
And that's the whole hospitality thing.
I think also the menu's not spread out too much. it's main and dessert. It's not 3 courses, so you're not hanging around. You don't feel like you're lingering either. It's just you have your main, you have your dessert if you want a dessert, and you don't have to. There's no force. It was interesting though because we're walking back to the hotel, which was in Westbourne, and there was a chap having a pint outside the Westbourne pub, which is on the corner and near the funeral directors, and he was chatting to what looked like a member of staff that was sort of new. You could tell because when you walk with kids, they're really slow. Like, they're just so slow. It's not like adults that walk fast. And the old boy with his pint, they were looking at Chez Fred's, and the old boy says to the chap, the member of staff says to him, "That's a national institution. It should be protected at all costs." And I heard him, and then he says Chez Fred, and I just sort of chuckled to myself because I thought, I wanted to mention it here. I didn't even tell him, and me and my brother-in-law just sort of looked at each other and smiled because. And I think I've been hard on fish and chips in the past. I always say, I don't really look forward to it, etc., etc. But I just thought to myself that day when I was eating it that I probably fall into the camp that eats it less regularly. But when I do have it, really want to enjoy it. And I think, but if I ate it all the time, and I know, I've been nearly 100 kilos, and I could visit a shop a couple of times a week, 3 times a week, and as in on days. So 2-3 times a day. I'd be visiting shops 2-3 times a week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday or something. I could eat fish and chips at any one of those, and you don't enjoy it. You're just eating for the sake of eating, and actually it isn't probably the best meal to eat 3 or 4 times a week. But yeah, it was really enjoyed. I just wanted to say, we really enjoyed it as a family, and anybody listening to this, visit other fish and chip establishments. If you're in the Midlands, go to York, go to Orkley, go to Ceres if you want the squits. Only joking, guys, only joking. But do you know what I mean? Visit, because I think we don't, and I get why, because we say, I've worked in a chip shop all week, I get it. But
where else can you get your protein, your carbs, and 3 days off work for a tenner? Where else?
Well, funny you should say that, because I sent that video to a friend of mine in Nottingham, of the Harry Ramsden's video, and he goes, "Wow, the GPs tomorrow are going to be inundated with 'I've got the shit,'" and I was like, "That was well harsh." I thought that was well harsh, but it didn't look that bad. So that's just a joke for anybody listening. But no,
please don't litigate.
But I do think it'd be good, if I always say this: visit other fish and chip shops. Yeah, and if you're not, if you're not adverse to it, email them ahead of time. You might even get to meet someone there, and especially if it's a shop that you've wanted to visit for a long time. And I know any of you lot would be open to something like that.
Very much so.
Yeah,
very much so.
So,
I think going back to Fred and his family, they're a class act, aren't they?
Yeah,
really,
yeah. Carolyn was there. She was serving as David. Soph wasn't there.
Just a class act.
Yeah, and they do feel like extended family. I will say that.
Yeah, and
they're very good. They're very good at what they do.
Yeah, and that filters down with the team, and it's very, very good.
It was nice taking, I guess, and I think this is what I want to do more so now. My boy's getting older, is taking to meet people that I deal with in the industry, like people that I'm friendly with. I think it's good for kids to see that family side of the business. Like how years ago, David, you rang me and said, "Come and meet Nick. Nick's coming into the family business." Yeah. There's something about that. I don't know. I quite like that. It
starts the connections often.
Yeah.
And if they do happen to come in the family business, they're known already. And when they do sort of take more of the reins than you, then they actually ask for him rather than me, which is great. There's no problem with that.
Well, given that you told us you like to sit on a bench drinking your gin, we got it, mate.
Shouting at the pigeons.
Shouting at the pigeons.
But I think that's fantastic, because that's a great way to introduce them, and then eventually, if they're taking over, and people, they're taking over the business and they're dealing with people you dealt with, and they're in fact actually, working with your siblings or your son or your daughter. I think that's a great way of getting the business forward, because they will talk about different things.
Well, this industry's made up of great families, and that is part of the fabric of the community. You've got the Millers, you've got the Caples, you've got the Ords, you've got the Barnes. I could go on and on and on. We are generational, and I think it is like I said, part of what makes the industry so unique. So
Absolutely. But moving on, chaps, I think, I'll just end that with visit as many fish and chip shops that you can, whether it's, just down the road or a bit further down the road, and why not?
And I'll say here, if anybody wants to come and see what we do up in York with the street food and obviously HQ at Haxby, you're more than welcome. Either get in touch with Stella or drop us an email or,
Don't bother coming to mine. We're below sea level. You'll get a nosebleed. It's not special.
Come and have a look at Taters.
Only come if you've got webbed feet.
I suppose the only way they'll let you in. Yeah. Look, David's feeling left out about the whole webbed feet thing because he's from Donny and they've got webbed feet and webbed fingers. So, yeah.
I'm not from Doncaster.
Here you are.
I'm not.
Barnsley.
I'm not from Barnsley.
When I was at the KFE ball the other day, I had him and
a day you get on the street and say that in Barnsley.
Yeah,
you'll get your head kicked in, mate. We were at the KFE ball. I was sitting next to him and Craig from Two Gates, both with their Barnsley accent. From Barnsley.
I don't have a Barnsley accent.
But it came on a bit that night. Yeah.
I have to do. Because
I have to do.
That's the only way you can interface with people from Barnsley.
Oh, is that right? I don't do that when I go to
drop
Barnsley.
Your T's and drop your Ms. Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I will say is when I go to Brent's, I haven't been for a while, but he literally just says to me, go on then, put kettle on. I was like, all right, mate, I'll do it, shall I? I just end up making everyone tea.
There isn't a tea in the house, is there?
Yeah, I'm the tea boy. Yeah, but I probably should visit at some point, bless him. So, moving on. In our last segments or pod squads, we've discussed how the messaging's been really positive lately on the news channels and so on. And I've had quite a few messages pointing me to certain news stories, listeners of the show. So, I've always said we've got to talk about everything, anything that gets brought to our attention. So this is it. So the backdrop of this one is a GB News story with Stuart Devine, who's been on the show, who's great. So a week or so ago, Stuart Devine, Vice President of NFFF and co-owner of the Ash Vale in Aberdeen, went on GB News. Again, he's been on the Ceres podcast multiple times. He's got an open invitation to come back because I think he's really professional and really informative. And I found him quite inspiring, actually. Many people that listen to his podcast do feel inspired by what he had to say. In this interview, though, I think if you watch the whole interview, or at least partial, because I think it gets cut off by an advert, it seems that he was actually there defending the fishing industry, not the fish and chip industry. And a few people did mention that. Now, this is the way that all the news presenters go now. They've got to create some form of outrage because who's going to tune in otherwise? It's not just
sensationalism.
Yeah, and it's not just GB News. They all do it. I was watching Sky News today, and they were talking about the Liverpool, the horrible Liverpool crash thingy, and they were almost measuring the pavement. So it's just something. So unfortunately, in this segment, Eamon Holmes, who I'd quite like to be fair, just wanted to labour the point that fish and chips was expensive, and I think it was left unchallenged, if I'm honest. And I think
Stuart said, I'm sure it was good value for money, or you enjoyed what you spent,
but
which I thought was
all right. Yeah, don't get me wrong.
He couldn't start getting into the nitty gritty of it, could he? I mean,
no, I don't think he had that opportunity to some degree.
No, I think he handled it really well.
And I think that for me, and it's not just this one. It's lots of these opportunities are just being missed. That we've got these listeners of whatever channel watching or listening, and we don't really get that strong soundbite that fish and chips is great value. Multiple times the presenter, and he's obviously got the advantage because he's the presenter, gets to say that fish and chips is now expensive. The media and our industry to some degree, we act like everything else around us is still £1.50, and yet fish and chips is now a tenner. And we know that's not how inflation has worked. And one of the examples that I put on the groups is that, KFC prices have now risen by an average of 65% since 2020.
A Big Mac's up 69%.
Yeah, and we don't. And I think we could quickly whip that figure out and reframe that conversation, because the fact is, fish and chips, pound for pound, are still the better value option. Nothing has changed. Inflation has meant all things have gone up, which means nothing has changed. We're still in the same boat we were pre-inflation or pre the last round of inflation, because, you know, old people can come in the shop and tell me, oh, I remember when fish and chips were £6. Well, okay, mate, you know.
It's fine. Can I buy your house for 500 quid? You've made some money.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
so, you know, I just feel like we missed we collectively, it's not just Stuart, it's the whole thing. We just need to really drum that message. Go on, David.
Can I just say, I mean, I did that thing for Good Friday on GB News, and they were great, but I can imagine how it went for Stuart. They tell you what time you're going on, and you're getting your, you know, you've done your brief, you're getting in your head what you're going to say. You're never quite sure what they're going to say, but you've got, you know, you're thinking, this is what I need to get out. When I cracked on about how good value they were and how great fish and chips was. But again, we were delayed. Then we were delayed again. And you just, it starts to throw you a bit. And then all of a sudden, yeah, are we on? No, not yet. And I can imagine that's what it was like for Stuart. Then all of a sudden you're on. And of course, it was so near an advert, wasn't he? So that advert's got to come out because that's what it pays for. And I think sometimes the way the media does is they do mess you about a little bit when you're coming on with that, and they can throw you. And I think you've got such a short period of time to get out what you've got to say, you can miss that opportunity.
Yeah. I agree with that.
We had ITV down the other day, and
Yeah.
apparently we're on the same, I think Caroline Murphy's on the same bit that we're on, and it's going out on the 6th of June. And they were trying to get me to say we're going to run out of fish and chips. We're going to run out of fish. And I said we're not going to run out of fish.
Yeah.
We just have to pay more to secure the fish.
Yeah.
It's a price problem, not an absolute supply problem. There's less supply,
Yeah.
but there's enough. There's there's not going to be a situation where we say, oh, I'm sorry, we're going to have no more cod. We just have to pay more to secure it our side. And he must have asked the same question 4 times.
Yeah.
Trying to
And I
ask
just-
it in
again, the
different
same-
ways.
Yeah, I just answered the same question. He said, what would you like to do to reassure customers that you're not going to run out of fish? I said, there's enough fish. We're not going to run out of fish. I don't know
And the
what.
thing is, if they're giving you a brief,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
say they give you a brief and you're straight off it, they're never
Yeah.
going to ask you on again.
Yeah, well, no, I was on point. I was, and I said to him before we started, look, there's that much negativity. Can we just? And I basically echoed what you said. You said it's the best protein pound for pound. I pretty much copied what you said, and I
Not
tried to
messed
land that
about
message
with
3 or 4 times,
it's
and tried not to
cleanest
talk
out
her
there.
off. Try to talk around it. But at the end of the day, they will edit it to do the message they get. That's good. That's what's.
I think the
gonna
good
happen.
thing with Stuart, though, he was live.
It was live, yeah. And it's very, and that's the thing with you. The advantages
I
you
was
had,
live,
David,
yeah.
is you could say your piece, you could
Yeah.
get your message across. Whereas I'm pre-recorded, so they can do what they want with it.
Yeah.
But I do think this all probably ties back to the fact that there's no central comment or news story or article where the NFFF is really. This isn't to slag them off. This is because it is their job as the central of the industry. They should have an article that pins down the facts that everyone can keep going to. Talking points. David Nicolau, when you were going on that day, you in our group messaged David Nicolau and said, what pointers can you
David
give
Miller.
me? Sorry, David Miller.
Yeah.
The 2 Davids between yourselves spoke to each other.
Yeah.
There should be an open area on the NFFF page with talking points that journalists can also find. Now, whether they decide to ignore it or not is a different story. But having those articles on an open part of the new NFFF website just makes complete sense for me, because it reframes the story and it pins down the truth somewhere. So you can always say, if anybody wants to know more, we've got the articles on our website. But otherwise, the talking points just get lost. And I agree with what you're saying, guys. I think one of the comments on the group to Stuart Devine was that it really, in the nicest way possible, it wasn't his job to be promoting or presenting or defending the Scottish seafood industry.
I couldn't work out why they didn't get somebody from the Scottish seafood industry to go on.
Yeah,
I mean, they could have had somebody like Jimmy Buchanan on, couldn't they?
yeah.
Nobody
Absolutely.
knows much more than Jimmy, really.
Exactly. And yeah, but I think that's what most people sort of took issue with, because resources from the NFFF should be for fish and chip shops, not fishermen. And I think, and as nice as it is for Stuart to defend or promote Scottish seafood, that's not really his role. So yeah, I think that's a couple of messages that I had saying that as well.
It does seem to be a bit of a creep of responsibility, doesn't it? Really.
Yeah, but it is.
But if you think about it this way, that at the end of the day, fish and chips is still getting in the news.
Yeah, but I do think if we're going to do that, we need to be screaming our pros, our positives. Yeah, otherwise, what are we doing it for? We're just going on there to say fish and chips is going to be expensive, and is that scaring people off again?
And not only that, but Eamon Owens put him on the back foot.
Yeah,
I could argue
away,
if you are going on GB News for a start, it is going to be a little bit more sensationalist than any other one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're all pretty much.
I don't know. Tell us about the headline that I sent you.
Well, you did.
What did it say?
The email that came through, the first one I clicked on, and it said, "Is Keir Starmer a foreign spy?"
There you go.
And I thought, my God, you've become a conspiracy theorist. I was looking like, I thought the next email that came through was, "Is the world really flat?"
Yeah,
question mark.
You thought you'd sent yourself an email, didn't you?
I thought I'd just slipped into an alternate reality of conspiracy.
So what I'm saying is that I'm not getting into the fact that one news media is better than the other. But if you are on GB News, they are going to try and evoke that national pride somewhere.
Yes,
and
they are obsessed with the royal family.
Yeah, and I'm not saying anyone is any other better, but if you are going on GB News, sort of expect that they are going to try and say how things were amazing 40 years ago, and yet nowadays all people have to scrabble together to get their pennies to go buy fish and chips. Yeah. Poor old Beryl can't afford a fish and chips. And that
it's iconic, great value for money.
There you go. And that is what we need. I wonder if we just, before anyone goes online, they just need some talking points in front of them. Here's what I need to interject. It's a good, I've won today if I've been on the news and I managed to slip in one or two of these things.
It would have been nice if it just paused halfway through and just got handed a plate of fish and chips to start and eat it. That would have been good.
So, moving on, guys. Mark, did you want to say anything on this? Actually, sorry,
yeah, I do.
I cut you off. Sorry.
That's absolutely fine. I was just listening very intently to that, and the thing is, I know the things that we're going to talk about going forward as well, and I wasn't sure when the right time to throw my hand into the conversation was, but I'll go now. Obviously a very long time ago I was an EC on the NFF, and things may have changed since. But when I was there, and probably still today, when a media inquiry comes in, I guess the diligent admin staff at the NFF will probably go to the president or the vice president and say, we've had a media inquiry come in, it's relating to Scottish fish or whatever, and then a decision will be made as to who's best to handle it. And I think straight off the bat, I want to say right now that Andrew Crook, Caroline Murphy, Stuart Devine, I love them all. They're all brilliant, amazing people in their own rights. They've all achieved so much. They all do so much, and so that, from what I'm about to say, it's certainly nothing against them at all. But the NFF has to take on these media inquiries and deal with them the best way they can. And so sometimes you're sending somebody out to discuss something that maybe they're best qualified to answer. They're the best person within the organisation to do it, but maybe it's not in their field of expertise. And I think Stuart Devine was probably the right person from the NFF to tackle this one, and I think he did a fantastic job. But you're right; it was a little bit left of the role that he plays at the NFF. But he has a really good understanding of the Scottish fishing industry as well.
I do think that so he was probably the right person from the NFF, but was the NFF the right organisation for the story?
Exactly. So that comes to the next point I was going to make. And that question is, does the NFF represent the whole fish and chip industry, or does it represent its members, because I think if you pay your membership, then you must accept that the people that that are running the organisation that you've bought into have a right to speak on your behalf. But if you don't pay in, then I think maybe if somebody says something that doesn't doesn't align with your beliefs, or doesn't align with what you would hope they would say, then because you've not paid, do you have the right to be upset about it? Or because you choose to not pay, do you have a right to be upset about it? And I think these are bigger questions than the Ceres podcast can answer, but I think they're relevant for this conversation.
Or have you got upset but they're not paid?
I know that will probably lead on to the next thing, which we're going to talk about, which was Andrew's comments, which again I think were made in good faith, but again I think especially with the culture we're living in now, with Gary Lineker and other people falling foul of one duff comment, I think Andrew has probably let himself down quite innocently with the thing that we're going to talk about next. So that's really all I've got to say on it. Really, I love and respect the job that the guys do at the NFFF, but it's a very, very difficult thing to navigate these days.
David Miller.
I just go back to what I always say. Don't sit on the sidelines having a go. And like Mark says, become a member. If the bigger it is, the stronger the voice is. And I'll always say that. Being a ex-board director myself, being in it like Mark has. I'm a member. You're a member. Stell, you're an associate member. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
David,
yeah.
you're still a member.
Me? No.
No. Okay. Yeah.
See,
so maybe
I get that, and I see what I had. 2 messages. I had plenty about this, but I had 2 the other day specifically saying I'm not rejoining after this, purely about the next topic we're going on to.
It's like do not get this the wrong way. It's like you've got to be a membership of a golf club, and you're not a member and starting playing else saying I don't like your greens and you shouldn't be running the bar like that. You've got no right.
No, but if you're not a member of a golf club, you can say I don't like being a member of that golf club because their greens aren't kept.
Yes.
You can say that,
absolutely.
What you can't do is say, I think this golf club should do X, Y, and Z. So golf course, should do X, Y, and Z because I want them to, and I'm not a member. That you can't do. You can't have any opinion on the direction of travel.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm torn here. I want to be devil's advocate on this one because I think there's 3 of us that are members, and 1 isn't, and not that we're ganging up on him, but I do see that some people...
I'll fight you all.
Yeah, I'll fight. He's from Barnsley. Yeah.
Nah then.
But no, I can see how I got those 2 messages, because we're going to talk about the next bit next, but I got those 2 messages saying, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. They are, one of the comments was, they basically just throw feces around like monkeys in a zoo. They're not, they're not. There's no strategy by that point. I know it's insulting, but there's no. What they were, it is graphic, but they were trying to say there's no strategy. Jumping on that past story that we just spoke about has nothing to do with fish and chips. The fishermen don't contribute to the federation, and yet they're being defended by the federation. And all in all, the message was essentially, it will probably cost more. We hope it don't, but we think it probably will. And I think that we've got to, and I get David's point, why he doesn't want to be a member anymore. And Tim and Kelly have mentioned it, and Paul Goodgame from Chesterford Groups mentioned it. These aren't thick people. So I take everyone's points on board, and I think that people want to see stronger representation and a strategy as opposed to this sort of scattergun approach.
Can I just jump in?
Or only if you want to talk for yourself and you want me to stop talking on your behalf.
No, I'm
joking.
There just doesn't seem to be a direction of travel. There's nothing published, future plans. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. it just seems to be there's a lot of reacting to situations. Obviously, there's a huge emphasis on awards, and and that's if I'm going to pay money, I want some progress and some representation, not just continuation and managed decline of the industry, basically, which is. And that's how I felt. I'll go elsewhere.
For a split second, I'd like to interject. I do not think that this industry is in a managed decline. I also don't think it's doing as bad as what people think it's doing. I think this constant talk of negativity makes us think the industry is doing terribly bad. I think it's doing okay given the climate and the situation.
No, sorry, you get me wrong. No, I'm not saying that it's in managed decline, but the message.
No, the messaging,
on the television is. We're going to lose 30% of the shops. Fish is going to be,
Yeah, I don't like that messaging.
That to me just creates an air of negativity around the industry, and I just think, well, I will just go somewhere else and take my money elsewhere.
I'm not. Yeah, for 1 minute.
That was my decision.
I want people to hear this. I don't want them to think that I think it's dead easy out there.
And I just let
go on, sorry.
I think everybody should be part of it, but I also think there's got to be a huge amount of reform to make everybody part of it. You have to look at all these people that have walked away and say, why? Not argue with them, not tell them they're wrong, or you've got to ask, why have you not renewed? And there's nothing. There's just no. Oh right, well off he goes then. See ya. Now you're.
Yeah, at the very least, David. To add to David's point, is before you get to what, it's just respond and say we're really sorry. What can we do better? And I know many people that have not renewed and have never had a call afterwards to say.
Yeah, a very nice email from Helen saying, "I hope you come back in the future." And I, my response was, "Yes, I hope so too."
Yeah,
and that was it. There's nothing. And I've met Andrew on a number of occasions. He's never pulled me to one side and said, "Why did you not renew?" So it's like we don't want the answer, so we're not going to ask the question.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It is a shame, but it's an absolute shame.
But we have veered a little bit off that. But for me, I think this just ties into the overall negative story.
But can I just finish off? Yes, I'm echoing what Mark said. I've got a lot of respect for people that's on the board. I've got a lot of respect for Andrew, the hard work he does, and Caroline and Stuart. Yeah, I mean, they're putting themselves out there, and they're in the firing line, and it's not easy because I've tried to do it myself, and it's stressful, and it's not easy at all. And hats off to them for doing it.
Yeah. But it doesn't also mean that we can't discuss those things. Absolutely. Because that's how you grow. You grow by having a conversation, and we talk about these things, and and like I've said, they're all welcome to come on the podcast, every single one of them. There's nobody on that board or organisation that's not welcome to come on. They've always been welcome, and that's.
Tom Hanks once said, "You learn more from a kick up the arse than a kiss on the arse."
There you go.
So,
Tom's
contention
right.
builds strong bones.
So keep it in line with this somewhat. There was some confusing comments the other day, and I think it was a mistake. But I've had numerous messages about this.
I think it was a typo, to be honest.
I hope it was.
I hope it was a typo too, because it's quite dark if not.
Yeah. So the backdrop to this, Andrew posted on the group the other day.
Sorry, Stel. Which group is this?
This is the this is the Fish and Chips discussion group on Facebook.
It's the one that's managed.
And how many other discussion
There's about
groups?
3. Give or take.
And is that the most popular one?
Yeah, that's probably they're all popular in some way, but this is probably the most. I always like to say that this is where the most intelligent conversation happens out of the 3. But so Andrew posted on there that he was in Northern Ireland, part of a meeting alliance with a group in Northern Ireland to lobby government on reducing VAT. And I wanted to mention this anyway, David, because of your articles recently about VAT. Look, I have been a huge supporter to the industry for the last 20 years trying to get VAT reduced. But I'm just going to break down this post for a moment. Andrew said that the NFFF has been a lone voice on the issue. That's not true. I'm sorry. That's just not true. In the last 20 years of being in this industry, many have tried to lobby VAT. Lobby government for lower VAT, and that's UK Hospitality, Nighttime Association, NCAS, Tourism Sector, the National Home Improvement Council, Federation of Master Builders. That was not going to go another way. National Hair and Beauty Federation. This is just one page on Google, and all I literally searched was lower VAT UK, and that is just that. So they are not a lone voice in this. in actual fact, nearly every organisation that has an industry that collects VAT, they are all asking for lower VAT. So there is no such thing as lone voice. And I understand why all the members' federations talk about lower VAT, because I think it gets members really riled up. I think it does. But in 20 years of being in this industry, it's never really been discussed outside of any emergency setting. In 2008, it was reduced 2.5% because of the banking crisis. And over COVID, it was reduced and then swiftly brought back up. So I just don't see that it's, as much as I want it for you guys as an industry, I just don't see that any government is going to accept it. I just don't see it. In the 20 years I've been in industry, we've had Labour, Conservative, Labour, and at no point has anybody said, well, we had a, what is it called when the two did a joint thing before?
Coalition.
A coalition. They don't want it. It's not going to happen. I just don't see it. And I just think that we keep selling this pipe dream to, like, members that we're going to vote for it and we're going to push for it, and members are like, yeah, and it's just not going to happen. I think that it's like low hanging fruit, and then they go and I think it's a win-win situation, because you say you're going to fight for it, you then have a meeting with a business minister or whatever they are, a civil servant. Oh, they're not listening to us. We don't hate NFFF or the organisation, do you? You hate the government. So it's an easy thing. Oh, the government don't listen to us. I just don't see how this is ever going to happen. And I've spoke to Kate Nichols about it. I've spoke to Michael Kill from NTIA. I just don't see how they're going to get VAT down to 20%. Sorry, under 20%. Now, just 1 second before I come back to you. At the bottom of this post, Andrew essentially finished it with, and I'm going to try quote some of it, but it was basically saying, infighting and finger pointing just makes us weaker. And a few people messaged me that day, highlighting that, saying, he's basically saying, don't disagree because I won't like it. And I think that's really shit, if I'm honest. I just think that we should all be able to voice our opinions, yeah? Whether they're great, whether they're not great, whether they're unpopular, popular, everyone should be able to say what they want to say. And in the spirit of that, David Miller, what would you like to say?
Well, I stand by what I wrote, and I've been in this industry long enough to know. You know, how long have I been in it? 40 years plus now. And I remember, you know, I paid an extortion amount, like 150 quid years ago. Is it KPMG?
Yeah.
They wanted to go to court and whatever about VAT. We're all thinking, God, if we get the VAT back, that'll be great. It'll never happen. I just do not think it'll never happen. I did a lot of research on it, worked with my accountant on it and everything. It is a cornerstone tax, and they need that money. And we are great collectors of it for them. You know, this industry, whether you call it hospitality, fish and chips, we are great collectors. They took us out of the game. They'd have to find it somewhere else. John Lavery from Fish City, he wrote to me and or said, yeah, some great points, David. You know, with your VAT and everything, but you know, they said, you know, we still need to keep pushing for it. And yes, in a point, yes, keep pushing for it, but you know, as I'm getting older, I'm just a bit more realist, and what I'm worried about is obviously we've tried to find some money from somewhere, as we all know, with us having to pay a bit more NI. Where will they've already sort of, there was some wobbles in the government last week, or talk about, you know, they're still short of money. Where are they going to get that money from? Well, does it go on to the employees for NI? Will they be doing that next? Or could they put VAT up?
Look, the thing is, what the government they know this, because they've seen it recently over COVID. When VAT was dropped to 5% and then 12.5%, I would imagine that they know the true figures. But I'll take a guesstimate, say that 99.5% of businesses that collect VAT on behalf of the government did not drop their prices to reflect that. Yeah?
No.
So, imagine...
I did.
Well, there you go. You're the 0.5
Out of
then,
fairness,
David.
and I made
Yeah,
a
you're the
point
0.5. So I only know of like a tiny amount of people, and there's no shame, there's no judgment. Do what you want. Like, I ain't got a problem. But imagine the outrage if VAT was dropped to 10% and McDonald's didn't drop their prices. You've just gave a multi-billion-pound company 10% for their bottom line. And there's other evidence that shows this. So, for example, the sun cream industry at the moment, for the last 2-3 years, have been lobbying government to drop VAT on sun cream products because they say it would be a barrier to entry that's removed so that people would buy sun cream. And because obviously the sun's bad for you, allegedly, given proper context, obviously, they would say that people should have access to sun cream. Well, guess what? The Tampax industry basically proved to us, Tampax and tampons proved to us that removing VAT meant they make more profit because they didn't drop the prices. Yeah? So...
But the tampon manufacturers are not the end point.
No, but everyone has swallowed that margin, is what I'm saying, yeah? Whether it's a bit from the Tampax manufacturer or tampon manufacturer or Boots and the likes of them, everyone has had their fair share of that 20% that was applied. And the same would likely happen in any other industry. And that's why the sun cream industry want to do the same, because that 20% quickly vanishes to the likes of Boots and the sun cream manufacturers. The end user will not see it, and I think that's why the government won't drop it. And also, I think it's bigger than just dropping a percentage. Everyone says stuff like, we should drop VAT and be like what the French do or the Spanish do or the Europeans do. But in the supermarket in those countries, 90% of those products all carry VAT. Yeah? So if you buy raw chicken, VAT, coffee beans, VAT, loaf of bread, VAT. In the UK,
it's not VAT; it's a sales tax.
No, but it's VAT.
It's a flat.
No, it is VAT. It's GST or VAT. Yeah, it's the same thing.
VAT is value added. You're adding a value.
But what I'm saying is those two.
Putting raw chicken in a cellophane box is not adding any value at all.
No,
so
but
it's a completely different concept of tax.
But the terminologies VAT and GST, they're almost exchangeable in Europe and UK.
One's general sales tax and one's value added tax.
But we don't have. What I'm saying is we don't have a GST.
No, we don't.
Yeah, and and really, this is why if you listen to those podcasts I did with Les Howard from the VAT specialist, he basically makes clear the UK, their implementation of VAT has been wrong and butchered since day one. He's saying that is a problem, that we've done it wrong, and actually just lowering VAT doesn't fix the problem, it just butchers it again.
I hope that Andrew doesn't think I was pointing the finger at him. I wasn't at all. I was just my personal thoughts, and I've always said this, and I've always said it as I was a board director, that do I think VAT's going to go down? No. My worry is, what if it goes up? But whenever I talk about things like that, I have my passport, I'm a fish fryer. I'm proud to have a fish and chip shop. But when I think about the sector we work in, we're actually in hospitality. Am I wrong to think that? Because we do serve the public, we serve them food. And we're in with people that have got restaurants, pubs. Anybody that's in hospitality is working with the public, and they all have to pay VAT as well. Now, I don't know if I've got that wrong, but I feel that we're in a bigger family as well. We're a family, but we're also in a bigger family, which is hospitality.
Yeah, I'd agree with that on the whole, but I do think we are the ugly duckling of the wider hospitality industry. I think that's fair. They feel like that maybe we aren't fully represented by the likes of UK hospitality and so on. David,
can I just make a point that there is an argument to say that the rate can come down because inflation pushes the
that's a fair point.
Added.
Yeah.
So when fish and chips was £8, the VAT on that I can't do the maths.
But this is why.
It was like £1.80.
But do you not think
now fish and chips are £12? So the VAT is £2. So the growth of VAT has gone up disproportionately.
But do you not think
so they could back it off 2% or 1%?
I'm shocked in you because you're the cynic, and I'm shocked that you don't get, or at least have slightly glossed over the fact that that's why government likes inflation.
Of course, of course.
So,
I know.
And they're not going to take the hit. They're not going to take the hit.
At the end of the day, and you're saying, David said they need the money. They need to address the hideous amount of fraud and waste in the system from the government's end, not nobody else's.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but
you know,
it's
if you
easier
look
to
at
get
what's
you
happened
guys to
in
do that
America-
on your end, isn't it? So,
Well, yeah, but if you look at what's happened in America with Elon Musk and Doge, the amount of fraud, waste, and ridiculous contracts that they've dug up, that has got to be replicated.
it's never going to be
governments in the
replicated
West.
over here. That's a fact, because we've got a government with a majority, and they're not going to do anything.
Well, so far.
Yeah, but that is it for the next 4 years. They do what they
so
want. And,
I agree
you know,
with you. I agree with you.
You know,
So nothing. I agree. Nothing's
so,
going to
but
Sorry, Mark True, butting in again. I don't know if anyone's seen the news lately, but also HMRC, as from April next year, we will have to submit our self-assessments every quarter. I was listening to a podcast from Radio 4 last week, and they were saying that they had the Secretary Minister on, and they asked him loads of questions. Is it to beat fraud? He never actually said it, but it's to. He more or less said it's to. We have a shortfall, and it's a way of us.
increasing the cash flow.
Yes.
yeah, well, it makes sense. And
Well, I mean, started out you could pay a year in advance, and now you pay a year behind and 6 months in advance. So,
Yes.
So 6 months behind, 6 months in advance, and now
Yeah.
they want it quarterly.
Yes.
So we're going to put us.
Well,
everything
no,
in
they want
quarterly.
the assessments in. You'll still play yearly, but they want your assessment in
Oh, okay,
every
okay.
quarter.
I think that I think that's to stop the massive slew of January tax deadlines and
Well, and also they said that, it's a bit like digitally, so you'll be using something they recommend.
using your fingers.
No.
Oh,
And that could marry up, and I
Yeah.
had a conversation with Stel, and if you explain what
so
you
it's
said,
basically they're
Stel,
making tax digital. They've been doing this for the last 10 years or so, but every part of let's say, the accounting supply chain or the logistics chain, it's going to be at some point digital. So, like, for example, we're already all making tax digital. It's moving on to the retail side. So sooner or later, what's probably going to be happening, or at least their ambitions are, if I sold something to Miller's, and there's a discrepancy on Miller's side, they can then click and say, 1 minute, let's just look at their list of suppliers on Zero, and then it'll be like, oh, 1 minute, he uses Ceres and Colbex. Let's just click on those. Oh, actually, here's the anomaly. It's absolutely innocuous. Or, no, it's not. There's something wrong here. We need to investigate. This is happening too often. And I think that's where they're trying to really double down on shining a light on everybody's accounts and making a trail. Now, whether they do it successfully is a different story. That's their ambition.
but that's the plan.
So,
Yeah.
how we got here, we have sidetracked a little bit, but there was an odd exchange the other day. And again, I'll just go back to, so Andrew was in Northern Ireland, and he was then talking about essentially trying to ramp up, again, I think this was the point, ramp up a lobbying effort to government. And then David Armstrong Reid, who's from Edinburgh, and Andrew had a bit of an exchange. And it was basically, I think, I'm just going to paraphrase David's comment, and it was something like, they're not going to do anything as long as our industry doesn't pay its fair share of...
I've got.
Oh,
the
go
quote.
on,
You
go on,
want to like
David,
it?
go on.
And it said, Andrew Crook, they won't listen until they won't listen while they have the hard belief that the whole industry is on a VAT and PAYE fiddle. Until you can prove that NFF members are not, it's always going to be a very steep hill to climb. And then Andrew responded, I wouldn't say it's NFF members only, or fish and chips, it's an issue across the sector. Then David Armstrong Reid came back and said, agreed, but the NFF should insist on VAT, return and PAYE statement as part of joining. I mean, obviously that's not going to achieve anything, because if people are abstracting VAT, it's going to make no difference, because you're still putting in VAT and PAYE, but PAYE, but it's obviously not accurate. But the last comment, which was bizarre, and I'm sure it's a typo, and I'm sure Andrew's going to come back to us and confirm this. It says, Andrew Crook responded, David Armstrong Reid, even the shops I know are committing large amounts of fraud, pay VAT and PAYE. The same probably couldn't be said of some other cuisines. So is he basically saying, from what I can see, and then he finishes off as, I do have a few short ideas around this, but the system is flawed and that's for the government to sort. Is he basically saying that the fish and chip industry is riddled with fraud less than other people? Or is he if that couldn't should have been it could?
This exact comment.
You highlighted that in blue.
Yeah,
didn't you? And you
I
said,
had
this is
4 messages
weird.
within an hour of that
Yeah.
going out, basically saying, is he saying what I think he's saying? Now, I've said to you guys, I think it could be a typo or a mistake. He's just typed it quickly while he's frying. But it basically reads to me, and people smarter than me, which isn't hard, but people that are smarter than me, basically says, we do fiddle a bit, but not as much as those guys. That's the...
No, that's...
Oh.
No, it to me... No,
Go on.
No, I think it's the other way around.
Well,
so the response was, even the shops I know are committing large amounts of fraud.
yeah, so that's probably not a good
The
look, is it?
same probably couldn't be said of some other cuisines. So he was saying that the other cuisines aren't committing large amounts of fraud.
No, I think...
Now, is that couldn't
no,
be a typo?
I think it's the way I don't know. It's not clearly written, but I think it's what I think it said. I'm not doesn't matter. We've got no dog in the right.
But those words that it's typed would disagree.
You're probably right. Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. I hope it's a typo because
of some of the cuisines. So basically, I think you said the same probably could be said of other cuisines.
My issue is, and this is the argument I have.
We are arguing. We're debating an N apostrophe T. Aren't we now?
The problem is, and I love Andrew to bits personally. We disagree a lot professionally. I'm happy to say that. Anybody listening to this will know that. Yeah. Yeah.
He's a good guy.
Words matter. Yeah, and if you language is really important.
Language
and if you're
matters,
typing something on an open platform for everybody to see, whether it's intentional or unintentional, it was an intentional act of typing, which means he needs to be clear, very clear.
And it's almost impossible to separate Andrew Crook, the bloke,
Yeah.
from
And
Andrew
Andrew
Crook,
Belev,
the
yeah.
president, because it's never clear
Where the line is now.
where the line's drawn.
Yeah.
Where the line.
But I just think I feel like he's saying, and a few other people that sent it me think he's saying, that A, he knows people personally that fiddle, that he said that,
clearly.
and he's also saying, but not as much as other cuisines.
Now I see the other way around because he said I couldn't say the same, which basically means we're the worst. And other cuisines.
I know. I think he's saying we're the better version of that. That's my theory. I don't know.
Well, some distinction was made of who's the bigger fiddler.
Yeah, Mark. What do you think, mate? You stood up.
Who fiddles the most, Mark? Can you put a racial group on it?
I don't think it really matters. I mean, I think I think Andrew's probably dropped the ball on this one. Well, he's human at the end of the day. He's doing his best day in, day out. But Gary Lineker went last week for something that he did by mistake. He admitted it was a mistake, and then he went.
Gary Lineker didn't do anything by mistake. Gary Lineker has been basically trolling every side of everything for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
whether you agree with him or not, I mean,
And a nanny posted a comment and then deleted it off Twitter, and she's doing 3 years for it. So
look, I'm not suggesting for a minute that Andrew needs to fall on his sword because I don't think anyone
David just dropped his sword.
I don't think anyone wants his job for starters. The point I'm trying to make is, people do hang. People are accountable for what they say, and when you're speaking on behalf of your members or the whole industry, which is a point I made 10-15 minutes ago, you have to give consideration to what you type, even if you are frying on your range. If you're frying and you can't really give it the time or the attention, or you're in a taxi or whatever, don't respond until you have got time to give a measured response. I've fallen foul of it myself. I've said things that I regret in open forum. It's cost me relationships. It's a tricky one.
We've all been there.
Yeah,
I think the saving grace, it's on a closed forum.
Yeah, it's on a closed forum, and I think Andrew would probably be able to fix it with one comment. He'd be able to clarify his position on it.
I just think someone in that position should be clear. and because people do follow his word. He is the president of our trade association. And I'd say this if it was one of us four that was the trade body also. I don't want it to look like I'm bashing Andrew. I'm not.
Good.
It's just he is the president, and he is also the person that made those comments, or that comment, shall I say.
Look, we've fallen foul of it ourselves, if I remember rightly. Yeah, if I remember rightly, we were pulled up for something quite similar.
It was me. It was me that said it. So it's fine.
It happens.
But
with the best intentions.
These are very different things, and I tell you why. Because one is a trade body president saying he knows people who fiddle.
Yeah, that's
So that needs clarity. That probably needs cleaning.
It is kind of worrying.
You know, and I don't think it's as bad as it reads, if I'm honest. I think if he was to answer it, it'd be like, mate, I was in a rush. I was in the middle of something. I was running out the back to get fish. And, you know, and I think that's probably what it is.
When was it posted?
But I know, I don't know. But I do know that 4 people messaged me saying I'm not renewing my membership because I've been complaining about this sort of thing. And now he's basically saying he knows people like that.
But he said when you did the podcast with him, that he's taken evidence to HMRC about this, and they've done nothing about it. So is he? I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, no, I remember him saying that.
And so it could be it's probably as frustrating as him. And we know it goes on, and it's frustrating when you get that VAT bill at the end of the quarter. You know, and you know that you're paying a lump of money, and the guy across town isn't. What do you do? You know, it's not our job to police it, is it?
No, I often think about whistleblowing on shops that I mean, I don't know anyone that's doing it, but I'm suspicious. Whenever I see a cash only sign, it makes me suspicious. But I don't. I honestly, I think we're trading now in a climate where so much of the business that you do is electronic. It's actually, I think it would be impossible for me to rip any cash out of my business, or not declare that.
On the topic of that, let's move on. Although it's slightly thingy, I want to get onto the other topics afterwards because David's got a really good one. But I sent you all a topic. So I don't know why I just keep seeing this guy's burger company come up on my Facebook feed, and what I've probably done is opened it to like it or read it, and now it's just constant. And it happened to me last night. I was just on it, and I saw it, and it stood out to me because it had over 100 comments. Yeah, and I thought, wow, okay, that's interesting. What's happened here? So I quickly gloss over it, and it then fed into what we were talking about VAT. And it's something burgers. I don't want to say which one because, probably doesn't need any more crap. And he basically posts, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit and skip through it, but time for a reset. After 3 years of blood, sweat and tears, I'm about to make a tough decision. I've been hit with a £17,000 VAT bill. Now, that was the first surprising thing because... he's been hit with something that isn't technically a bill. It's a tax payment, and you'd think he'd know, but anyway. And despite asking for help and clarity months ago, it's only just landed and gaining interest. Okay, so he's late paying it.
He's not paying
Yeah,
it.
I have nowhere near that kind of money. It's enough to make you wonder what the point is. That
He spent
it. Where we're all set up. He said, "I'm not going to." Question him on his spelling because mine's terrible, but he's basically saying it's a rigged system and we're set up to fail. And I was thinking to myself, well, you must have known when you set up a burger company selling hot food that you were going to be liable for VAT at some point.
Once you hit the threshold. Did you see the comment further down? It said, "Being off for 6 months, not a help."
Yeah. And it says, I started the business from nothing, from a flat window. What do you mean? From a flat window? I think you mean a window in a flat. Okay, not okay.
Not a curved
okay, and no investors.
Ground level.
Ground level.
Ground level
You don't
window.
have to get ladders.
Perhaps it was he had a
no
sign.
investors, no backup, just graft, and for a while it worked. Well, it worked while he was selling it cheap out of his flat, undercutting real burger businesses,
and not paying
and
not paying any
VAT.
VAT.
And you think this is the problem to some degree, is that anyone can open a business down the road from you guys, from their home, selling burgers, chicken, whatever they want, undercut everybody and then feel hard done by when they actually have to do it legally. And he goes, I had a simple setup. It's quite honest, to be fair to the guy. He's very honest. I ran on cash.
And made an honest
Can
living.
those two things go hand in hand? But anyway,
honest living.
but since going limited, doing deliveries and using platforms in order to grow, all I've seen is stress, red tape, and systems to punish the small business. Welcome to the real world, my friend. We have grown and we are selling more and more, but it's not enough. Well, okay. I'm stuck in the murky middle bit of not being big enough, but also being small. Being away for 6 months didn't help either. So I'm assuming he's done like 85 grand or so in over a 6 month period. He was liable for that ages ago. I have been penalised for doing better and going bigger. Welcome to the real world.
Welcome to our world.
But living on the bare minimum. Well, taking 6 months off ain't really the bare minimum. So, I hope that wasn't for illness anyway. Because that'd be a shame. So now he says he's taking a step back, downsizing, going back to more simple, stripped back setup, likely walk-ins only, probably cash only again. Fewer days open, fewer overheads. And he wants to say thank you to all of those that have supported him. Now, I did think the next one made me laugh, though. So he then put a post on there. There was 100 comments. And the next one said something along the line.
Did anybody say, Stelling, those 100 comments? Didn't you know there was VAT to pay?
Yes, many of those did. Others said, why don't you go cash only and hide the money? Which was amazing, actually, because, I find it amazing that customers would say, but actually, no, because they're thinking, I want cheaper food. Like, that's what they're thinking. Like, they don't give a crap. But then his next comment or post was, you can always trust social media for expert knowledge and knowing your business better than yourself. Now, in this instance, a lot of the comments knew better than him. So I think he's being a bit salty there, because a lot of people saying, mate, there's an £85,000 threshold, 87. Everyone was sort of off with some of the old figures, 82,500, 87. So to be fair to them, they were quite on it. Like, a lot of the people were saying, oh, come on, you must have known there was VAT to pay, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I just thought, you know what? I just thought, is he being penalised? I think he's not. Is it bad business, poor planning? Many of the commenters definitely said, go cashless so you pay less tax. Basically hide it. What do you guys think?
I just think there's...
It takes the piss out of people that run a really good business.
I can't believe that anyone is that naive.
And, as I always say, you earn it, you owe it. Get on a Sunday, whatever day you're short, or if you're open 7 days a week, plan a day, work out what you've earned, take your VAT out, stick it in another account. It's not your money. And to go cashless, I mean, you're just taking the piss.
Cash only, not cash.
Yeah.
Everybody has to start somewhere, and when you start in business, you are a bit wet behind the ears. But ignorance of the law is no excuse. Whatever you decide to do as a self-employed person, you've got to do your homework. You've got to do your research. I bet he's probably not even registered with the council. He's probably not.
No, he must be. If he's limited and all that, no.
No, if you're operating out of,
I've killed 3 pensioners.
If you're operating,
I think you've got a shop now. I think.
But if you start operating out of a flat window, the HO haven't come and given you permission to run out of a domestic kitchen, a business.
Not a bifocal.
Hovering yourself in, you'll be all right.
It's like street food vendors. The overheads and the setup costs are really low to get started. They're able to cut corners. They're nomadic, so no business rates, probably no utility bills. Of course, they're going to get paid in cash, or they might have a card machine that they can jump onto somebody else's Wi-Fi and take card payments. And that card machine will probably go into an unlicensed, an unregulated bank account like a Revolut or something. It's very easy to set up one of these dark businesses that can avoid avoid tax without too much trouble. Don't make me laugh, guys. Don't make me laugh.
A relative, sorry to interject, just to add to that, a relative of mine over COVID, she was saying to me, there's like a little bandstand that's in their local park. It's literally just in her local park, so probably about a 100-metre walk. And it's a little bandstand which is covered, and they sell sandwiches from it. But someone took it over COVID because they thought, obviously, no one was allowed to be out initially, but then people were going out for walks, they took it over. And then afterwards, when people got back to their normal routine, starts doing Just Eat and delivery from it, they've got probably like a 2-star rating or whatever. I always call it a 2-star rating, but it's not. It's 2 dies, and it's a 2 rating out of 5 from the council, you know. And they're competing with Tiny Rent with their little bikes, going out to their 500-metre radius, doing burgers and bits and bobs. And you know, you can see the unfairness of it, you know, like. You know, if you've got a chip shop with all those rates and everything, it starts to grate at you a little bit, you know, Mark. Sorry, because I interjected there. Sorry, mate.
That's all right. Well, you know, that's how some people start, but I can't generate any sympathy for this guy. I can't. I want to say, oh, you know, poor you, but I can't. You know.
Welcome to the real world.
Welcome to the real world. You have to pay your VAT.
Can I just interrupt you? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Do you know how old this chap is?
By some of his photos, maybe 30s, low 30s, top 20s.
There's not a kid, man.
The point I was going to go on to make is that some people with static businesses that have got all the overheads, all the rates, everything else, they buy chip vans or they convert horse boxes, whatever, and they go down the legitimate way of trying to generate more business for their, more revenue for their business. You can't set that up as a separate business and run that part of your business below the VAT threshold and get away with it, because it's called a continuation. So if you can't do it, it's not allowed. It's illegal. It's unlawful. So you can't be Mark Petru fish and chip shop and then Mark Petru mobile fish and chip shop and run one and not pay VAT on one because it takes less. You can't do it. So the fact of the matter is that the VAT, HMRC have got more powers than the police. They've got more powers than anyone, and you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. Whereas with most other things, it's the other way round. And I think I just think this guy.
Well, I don't know him, and I'm trying not to say who it is either because I don't want to insult the guy. But I get your point. Like, yeah. So his last comment on this, his last post, shall I say? Again, hundreds.
Is he based in Cambridge?
No. So his last one was.
It's my brother.
So his last post was at 8:00 yesterday about this, and it says, "Jokes aside and all that, for people accusing me of stealing, saying I'm not running my business properly, I'm fully aware I need to charge VAT. I just don't understand fully how it works with claiming it back. Anyone who's actually been to my shop will know I've upped the prices, just not maybe as much as I should have, because I didn't want to push my customers away from and charge them more. I've been given bad advice and no warnings. I've expressed my concerns to my accountant. My accountant didn't express any concerns either. Well, they wouldn't, because they just, it's every day for them. It's like going to an oncologist and saying, what do you think of this prostate cancer? Well, okay, well, it's every day for them. They, if you're an osteopath and someone's got bone problem, okay, it's every day. So my accountants don't get worried about any of that either, because it's just it's nothing.
Shouldn't his accountant have been on it, though?
Yeah, well,
if it's a new business.
Well, it sounds like he was, because he's got a bill, so the accountant's done his job. When I say bill, he's got his receipt, so he knows what to pay.
Yeah, when we started here in 2000, I mean, my accountant's really good. When we started here in 2003, I mean, we had sort of phone calls every week, because we had to hit the threshold because it was a brand new business, and we had phone calls every week, and it was like, we're getting to the point now where you're going to have to sort of get registration and get it sorted. You're going to hit it on this date with what you're doing. So I don't know why the accountants weren't telling him that you've got to put this, money aside. And if he's got an accountant doing it,
is it really an accountant though, or is it just some guy that? Yeah.
Look,
let's not denigrate bookkeepers though.
I'm calling bullshit on the accountant.
We all knew nothing once, and then we went out and we learned how to do it, and then we learned what we had to pay and what we had to do, to stay on the right side of the
I'm
law,
not-
and we grew our businesses, and I'm still learning. We're all still learning. The thing that annoys me the most about the tax is that where they say tax doesn't have to be complicated. Of course, it has to be complicated. They don't want you to understand it.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I really do think that.
I do, and if I'm right, the terminology on the VAT threshold, if I'm right, because I've not read it for a long time, but it says you pay it when you think. No, you sign up as you get VAT registered when you think you're going to go past it, not when you do. Yeah.
No, you don't. You sign up straight away so you can claim back on your capital purchases.
Yeah, but many don't, because sometimes they'll just get a shop that has all the equipment in there and they won't.
That's what we were.
So I think there's two sides to the coin, and most people will do what suits them.
Thing is,
yeah.
Like
you have an
you said.
expert.
Sorry,
you have an
David.
expert and you hand it over to them because the consequences of getting into the shit with a taxman, don't go away easily.
No, you're right.
You know.
And once they've got your name on their system, that's
Like Mark said, when we were approaching, on the street food side, which is a separate business to the partnership, that's limited. When we were approaching it quite fast, within 2 months, they said the way you're going, we're going to start registering it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So be ready for it.
So I feel for this guy. If he's being completely genuine, I feel for him. If he's being a twat, then I'm with Mark.
Well, no disrespect. I haven't made enough money to shut the whole business down and have 6 months off.
Yeah. No. It is. It's an interesting one, and
I hope you enjoyed your 6 months off.
yeah. Well, and I hope it wasn't for illness, obviously.
I'll be touring Southeast Asia in the background. I bet he had a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Spending all the taxes.
The 17 grand that he now hasn't got. Yeah, I think there's an incredible amount of naivety. One of the girls said to me the other day that came to work. She said, "Is it true that your second job is tax free?"
No, that's fully taxed. Your second job, isn't it?
Yeah, no. If you have two jobs.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying. No, she was saying she's got a. I'm not going to go into too many details, but it has a day job, and he has a night job. It's like a side hustle. Oh, it's tax free because it's a second job. It's like nah. And you just think, well, is that? Do you really think that, or are you just trying it on, or?
So, David, I think this feeds in nicely to what you wanted to tell us about.
Yeah, well, a bit of news what we've been up to, but I just hope that Mark isn't having a go at me about my Hawks points.
As long as you've taken the horse out first, you should be
And
fine.
street food. I'm sure you are, Mark.
No, look, I'm hog roasting. I'm back
Yeah,
hog roasting
I know.
myself. So
You've been spit roasting.
We do it
Mark.
properly. We do it properly and
You're
professionally.
hog roasting yourself. That's going to be
Right.
painful.
yes,
It's quite funny because we've been developing since January. Well, Nick has from January been developing a dark kitchen within our shop. And I think that ties in, if anybody listened to the last episode, Mark did say, are we slowly becoming a fried one-stop shop? And I sort of cringed a bit when he said that, when I dare say what we're up to. But we're doing like a Louisiana Nashville chicken, and so we're using a breading and whatever. And what we've done, where the shop is, it's quite big, and we've set a cook line in the back with extraction, which is going to work on its own, and we're just going to be working with Just Eat, Deliveroo. It's not, and maybe a bit of click and collect. We'll get to that later, but it will have its own team running that rather than any of the fish and chip shop team running. So anyway, that's it. It's a dark kitchen, not in a housing, in an industrial unit or anything like that. We've actually done it in the kitchen. We're going to just see how it rolls, and then if it is successful, we might take it somewhere else near into York. But it's just a sort of trial to see what it goes, just to see, how we can add a bit more body to the business. And I think Mark mentioned that.
I'm doing the same thing, by the way. I'm setting up a dark kitchen right now.
Yeah, but on the back of that, when we were sort of working in it, I got a leaflet through. Now I don't know if anybody else has got that in the UK, and I've had it twice, and it's from a company called Growth Kitchen. Anybody heard of that?
Yeah, I think we had
Before.
something through from them.
Did you?
Yeah, and then we had a
And
follow-up phone call with them.
It was actually targeting fish and chip shops. It
Yeah.
specifically said, fish and chip shops, times are hard sort of thing, get into this.
Yeah.
And these are a company from London, and they work with 3 companies or 3 concepts, and the concepts are, let me just find them for you. So you've got, here we go. Where are they? Bear with me 1 minute, guys. Just let me find it. So you've 3. You've got the Athenia. Now that is based on a popular Greek restaurant. So that's serving award-winning Greek favourites. Okay. Then you've got another one called the Cockfighter, which is fried chicken and chips and whatever. Was awarded Deliveroo best fried chicken in the UK. Well, there's loads of them. And then the other one's a beer and burger one. And these are the 3 concepts that they're offering to put in. So basically, they come into your shop, set it all up, help you work it out, put all the platforms in, everything like that. But I don't know what they take off you, what they want. But I thought that was quite interesting, Mark, especially on the back of what you said last time.
Well,
So it's obviously a growing. We're doing it. You're doing it. It's obviously a growing thing coming in, and they're also targeting pubs, restaurants, with having 2 restaurants within it. Now, going back to what we said before, how does that work? Do you work for them, or do you work for yourself? That'd be quite
franchise
interesting.
basis?
Yeah, don't know.
Yeah. Well, a good few years ago, I'm sure you'll remember this, Stel, from the Chipper Chat forum days. Stone Willie's came along and tried to get chip shops to take a pizza concept, and they supplied you with ready-made bases. All you needed to do was buy a Turbo Chef oven. They gave you all the toppings, they gave you training, they gave you menus, and so you could become a Stone Willie's franchisee. And run it from your fish and chip shop. And I know some people tried it, it worked, that it collapsed in the end and all went away. I know that Chicken Shack did a similar thing, an American concept. And I think, if you've got room in your kitchen, I know Mr. Beast did is doing a burger thing as well, so you can have that. That's not for me. I'm setting up a kitchen for very, very different reasons, and I'm actually doing everything apart from fish and chips because I believe replacing my fish stock is going to become expensive when I finally get through the amount of fish that I agreed to buy last November and paid up front for. So I'm still paying 2023 prices for my fish because I bought it all a long time ago. But that's going to run out, and when that runs out, I'm gonna find that my margins are going to be really squeezed when I have to buy fish at today's prices.
So I'll keep you updated how it's going for us. But I just wonder if anybody else had had that through. And, it was specifically said fish and chips.
I do think, though, I do worry about how many middlemen we're introducing into the business.
Be careful who you let into your business. You're still expected to do 100% of the work, but you won't be getting 100%.
Aggregators, it's clear what's happening. They own nothing. Look at Airbnb, one of the largest corporations on the planet today, built on being a middleman. They don't own hotels. Same with Uber. They don't own taxis. So if you let them in, it's just going to be another extension of just the Deliveroo, Uber Eats,
Food Hub,
and I just think just be careful. Is it? I remember when I think the slogan for Just Eat was "We're your partner" or something, and I was thinking, well, they take the lion's share, so they are a partner. Because they're taking
it's a fairly abusive relationship.
Yeah, well, because they're taking let's say 30% from your side, and then 20-something% from the customer side. They've marked themselves out a nice little margin for creating a platform. So, well done to them. I'm not saying you shouldn't deal with aggregators, but what I'm saying is just be fully aware that is what they are. They are, they are aggregators in a different way, shape, or form. And if you're using, in this instance, David, their concept, and you're buying their packaging, and you've got to do things their way, I'd be interested to know how it works if you did ever choose to do it, or if somebody listening to this does choose to do it. I'd love to know more.
I might ring them and find a bit more out about it. I mean, we've obviously done it ourselves completely from scratch.
Yeah,
me too.
You know, and we're just trying it as a trial, and then hopefully, if it's good, we'll move it out. You know, but we're just using our space, and then if it does go, then we'll use that cook line.
Here's a question for you all: can a chip shop ever go back to the way it was, aka people queue up, pay for their food, and leave? No click and collect, no pre-order. You can pay however you want, but
I think there are still shops that trade like that. But can you go back to it?
I don't think you can.
Yeah,
I'm not. And again, there's no judgment from me there. I'm just asking the question out loud.
We used to have on a Friday night. I mean, somebody had moved away. They lived across the road and moved away about 15 years ago. They moved to the other side of Doncaster. Anyway, they've moved back, so they've bought a bungalow across the road, and they said, "Do you know what? Your shop's not as busy as it used to be because we used to see cars queued all round the green on a Friday night."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, we are doing pretty much the same numbers, but the click and collect, a third of the orders come through click and collect. People park up outside the door, come in, get it, and go. Whereas there isn't that 30-minute wait or 15-minute wait in the queue. It doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know if for convenience, I think would people go elsewhere. I don't think you'd have to uninvent it, wouldn't you? I guess.
Yeah.
I've always said that the way to grow your business isn't to change your menu and to evolve your menu and grow your menu. It's to find out who your customer is and go out and grow the amount of customers you've got.
Yeah.
Find more of them. And yeah, having said that, I'm setting up a kitchen that is probably a mile away from my chip shop, and everything that I'm putting on the menu is stuff you can't get in my chip shop, but gives people better value for money. So I'm going up against myself, but I'm actually taking my branding off it. So my name isn't going to be on it.
No, same.
Yeah, my branding, I'm quite happy to share it, but mine's called the OK Online Kitchen. The O standing for online and the K standing for kitchen. It's a really catchy logo, and the reason I've chosen the logo that I've done is because it makes a really nice app button, so it's really easy to see when you're going through your apps. So it's called the OK Online Kitchen, and in my menu I've got a pound chef section of my menu where items on it are really, really good value. So people will be able to go to the OK Online Kitchen, choose from the pound chef menu, and feed a whole family for like 15 quid, 20 quid. Yeah. And because I think that I think that's where I need to go to, and then eventually they'll be able to get my fish and chips from the OK Online
You
Kitchen
do know
as well.
that there's VAT to collect on that at some point.
Yeah,
Just don't want you getting all angry in a few months' time.
Go for 6 months off.
Again, it's not a new business. It's
But
part
yeah,
of
when
it.
the VAT catch up with me, I'll pay it. Don't worry.
Catch up with
Don't. When they catch up with me,
You'll be on here in a year's time saying my account.
I'll let you know how it goes, because it's something we've talked about for many years, and we've decided to have a go at it. And don't forget, our primary business is still fish and chips.
yeah,
We're not moving away from that, and it's got nothing to do with the fish and chip shop. It's just they just happen to be taking a space from Haxby that we don't use to have a go at something else.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
And as long as it doesn't, the worry I've got is it interfering with the production of the fish and chips. But I think we've set it up in such a way that it won't. And I think if in the ideal world, I would probably have said, let's do it like you, Matt, completely different place.
Yeah.
But we're going to try it and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, I'll let you know. If it does work, I'll let you know.
Mark, might as well elaborate, because you wanted to talk a little bit about menus and stuff.
yeah. Just on the back end of that, I wanted to talk about fish and chips. Is it due a reboot? And because a couple of things have happened to fish and chips that I'd say it was a portion size creep. You remember the first Volkswagen Golf that came out, and the first Ford Fiesta, and if you go up to the Mark 8 Golf or the latest Fiesta before they binned it, they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the
the people that sit in them.
Yeah, well, the Volkswagen Polo now is bigger than the first Golf. And I think what's happened with fish and chips, when my dad was cooking fish and chips, he used to get 50, 60 portions of fish per slab. And the fish was much... Yeah, and that was a portion of fish and chips. And there's been this menu creep. And what we've done is we've brought in a light bite, which was probably the same size as what my dad's portion was. And we now call it a light bite. But regular is so much bigger than it used to be in the good old days. And then I turned my attention to what's happened with burgers and chicken in the last few years. Burgers have had this reinvention. You've now got the smash burger and the gourmet burger, and they're putting it in a brioche bun, and they've really reinvented the burger. When really it's just really the same product.
It's a sandwich.
Yeah. I mean, a smash burger is just a burger that's not already formed that you need to squash on a griddle. But it's a smash burger.
Alternatively called mince.
Yeah, and all they're doing is cooking it so far on one side, so you can see that it's cooked before you flip it, and that forms a crust. And they're talking about all these different meats and different cuts of meats. And chicken with its different breadings and coatings, soaking it in buttermilk, all these things that they're doing to chicken to kind of sex it up and to reinvent it. Maybe I'm just asking, is it time that we did the same with fish and chips and gave it a reboot? And who would come up with a concept? I mean, how do you do that with something that historically hasn't changed for 160 years? How do we make it cool again?
In my mind, I don't think those things have changed. The concept's still there. Fried chicken is fried chicken. Might have a different flavour, but it's fried chicken. Burger, nothing's changed.
Rebranding of it.
It hasn't rebranded, is it, really? I think it's just...
It has.
I don't know if I agree. A burger's a burger.
Well, you're wrong.
So tell me how you feel.
Where have you been, man?
If you go in and have a quarter pounder burger, it's a completely different product to two flattened pieces of mince, that they have to scrape off a griddle, and it's just, I don't get the whole smash burger thing. It's like you have one, you think, nah.
But it's generated a whole new... Well, it's a new generation of consumers.
I wrote an article about it not long ago, how this resurgence... It's not even a resurgence, it's just a consistent growth when it comes to burgers. It just keeps going and going and going. And I think a lot of it, the appeal is to do with, you can eat it with one hand. You can be quite lazy. And you can also tart it up as well. You can use different cheeses, nicer meat if you so wish. Nicer setting. But then fish and chips is the same. Like we went to a nice pub restaurant in Salisbury on Sunday. We all had a Sunday roast. The little lad didn't want a Sunday roast. He had fish and chips in a nicer setting. Many would call it posh, but it wasn't. I don't know. I think maybe we just look more critically at our industry. I might be wrong, but
I think
British industry though, British cuisine. It should be. It's sacred and it should be protected, and it shouldn't be altered or bastardised or changed around. I mean, what we're going to do? We're going to salt bait. We're going to.
Well, if anyone could salt the fish and chips like that, it would work. To be fair.
What about cutting the fish into smaller pieces and having a 1-piece, 2-piece, or 3-piece meal? That would be a rebrand.
That Americanises it, and I don't mind it either. That's not a negative.
Yeah, I'm just floating that. I'm not saying that's the answer, but there has to be.
David Nicolau, mate, your hand up there.
David Miller.
I have a friend.
I'm never going to get used to
this. Fish and chip shop who had a fish and chip shop in Yorkshire. He now lives in Vancouver, and they sell it in strips, Mark.
Yeah.
So you can go in and go 3 strips, 4 strips, 5 strips, 6 strips. Shed load of salad, but I mean the Canadians are healthy eating.
Are they?
Well, apparently. And
I think they're fatter than us.
Yeah, like moose is the ones I've met.
No, but I do like this concept. I've said it for a long time. Like, if you were, no, I'm leaving it. If you were going to do, if you were going to say like David Miller just said 3 bits and a regular, or 3 bits and a large, whatever it may be, then all the fish, if it's perfectly sized at 2 ounce, 3 ounce, every single one, all you're doing is just knocking out product. It's always going to be crispy because the smaller the fish, the crispier it is anyway.
Yeah.
You're dealing with less moisture and more batter. And people like more batter. So you get more batter per ounce of fish, which is good for me and it's good for you. So
The price of 2 to 5s would go up, wouldn't it?
yeah, it probably would. Yeah. But imagine if you're using 1632 and just chopping down into like 2.5s. Like, you know, you'd be laughing.
You'd be going back to the old days of getting 60 fish out of a block of.
Look, it's a point for debate anyway.
Yeah.
Mark?
I think, you know, what we do in York, Mark, we do a similar thing, but people still want that.
Mark,
fish.
you've been in this industry probably as long as, I mean, you and David, you know...
We're old.
Well, just say it, David. Just say it.
I am the oldest.
You started earlier than I did. At what point did it all go to bigger portions? Or what was the tipping
It was a
point
creep.
for that?
It was a creep.
Just a creep. Yeah.
It's a creep. I mean, if you've ever...
When we took over from our fathers, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever went to Pete's Chippery in Bedworth,
Still talks about this now, still full. I think he's still processing
I'm still full from one small kebab I had.
There was a very much a Greek hospitality. You've got to fill people up.
But it's not just that. I think with how slow, for let's say 20 years, inflation went, like
it was
very flat. We don't know I don't know the reasons behind it, but fish and potato prices stayed very steady for a very long period of time, and prices crept up. So as prices crept up, so did the portion size, because it was easier to say give the customer a little bit more, they'll feel full. You know, but you know, I know. Me and Charlie laugh about this, but there's a shop in Leicester that does a 16-ounce haddock. You know, for like £7 or something, £8.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's another shop that I saw in Nottinghamshire, and they just buy a 1632, and they just basically they don't even 816, sorry. And if it leans towards an 8, that's a mini, and if it leans towards a 16, that's a large. And I say lean because you're not exactly 8 to 16. There's always a bit of thing.
No, there's always a gradient. Yeah. There's always,
So look, I think that's just the way it's gone. But I do think the clever thing with burgers is that you don't just slop another burger on there and say, oh, it's on me. You know, you don't just give 4 patties instead of 2 and say, oh, it's on me. Everything's... although it's an old cuisine, maybe this is where Mark says it's being reinvigorated or reinvented, no one feels the need to say, oh, there's a 8-patty burger, but I'm only charging you for 4 patties. No one really does that. So, yeah, that's interesting. And fries, as David has told us, are more expensive. They're not as cheap as chips.
Cheap,
you know.
Yeah, but I've been around, as you've very kindly pointed out, for quite a while, but I'd never heard of a smash burger 4 years ago. I'd never heard of buttermilk chicken 4 years ago.
Yeah, no,
and
buttermilk
now
chicken's a thing. Buttermilk chicken's a thing.
It's very deep South America was buttermilk.
But really, southern fried chicken, in the true sense of the word, isn't southern because of the spice blend. It's southern because of the location.
The location.
Yeah? And really,
Tennessee.
it was just chicken breaded in flour, and then bit of salt and pepper, cooked pretty much in any animal fat you could find.
In an open pot.
It then evolved somewhat.
The pressure cooking came for speed.
Yeah.
And the rest
and also pressure cooking is better for bone-in chicken because the bone creates a problem. But it was pretty much an open iron skillet. Yeah.
Can I give you guys some homework after today? Do you know much about crayfish?
A little bit.
Freshwater?
It's a relative of the prawn, but yeah.
Yeah. Did you know how you can get a licence to catch it in the UK in fresh water?
No.
You just apply to the council for it. The crayfish that was indigenous to this country has been wiped out by a crayfish that was introduced from America, and it's now rife in our rivers.
That's Trump, honestly, America.
And my brother and I have the only licence in Cambridge to catch it, and we've never gone and caught it. But we just did some research on it and found out.
So you now have a monopoly on crayfish in Cambridgeshire.
I could catch it. I could catch it in the rivers round here and put it on the menu. Yeah.
I couldn't see much in the ooze, could you, David? Really?
You'd be surprised. I mean, they're
just pretend
worried
it was
about.
prawn.
They're worried about the amount of it in
what
our
can you
rivers.
do? What can you do with crayfish? Are you going to go through the whole Bubba Gump shrimp
Whatever you do with prawn, you do with
boil it,
crayfish.
broil
Like,
it.
Yeah,
Listen,
I wouldn't even know how to catch it, but I've got a license to.
Yeah.
I just don't
That's all you
think
need.
if I said we've got
That's
fresh
about-
crayfish from the River Ouse, do you want to try
Mark
some?
just described my driving ability. I don't know how to drive, but I have a license.
Just to pick up about
I trust you,
inflation.
Matt. I really do, but I just don't think you're on to a winner there.
Well, the thing is, nobody else is doing it.
So talking of fish, there could be a reason why nobody else is doing it. But talking of fish, David Nicolaou wanted to tell us a little bit about the EU thingy. That
It's very brief, and Mark Drummond covered most of it.
how dare he?
I know, he's annoyingly correct. Yeah, it's literally we had obviously Boris Johnson agreed EU's access to the inshore waters, sort of 6 to 12 mile inshore waters, and I think the hope was it was a tapered agreement that tapered off to 25% in 20. So we get 25% back off the EU's catch.
Yeah.
So in terms of money. And it was sitting at 25%. It would just be rolled over every year. And I think it was a point that they were going to hopefully in the future use it to negotiate more leverage and to get it, to get a better deal for the fishermen. And now, obviously, Labour have just signed it up till 2038. How binding that is, how international, how undoable that is for any new government, I don't know.
I'd say it's
and
quite
that makes
sticky because no one really
law.
cares enough to change it.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, they're up in arms about. It's not gonna. It's gonna kill the fishing industry. It's going to devastate these places. It's the same deal that's just rolled over.
Yeah.
I don't.
going on.
And it probably could have had this conversation right at the beginning when we were talking about Stuart. Talking regarding the Scottish thing, the Scottish fishermen.
Yeah, we have sort of come full circle, actually. Sorry.
Yeah,
David,
it doesn't seem to have... There's nothing new, but what they have done is attached us to the European carbon markets. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen there now because we have to now start... I mean, it's a wholly invented carbon market that's, that's trading, but we've no idea what the effect is on us. So it's more net zero.
Yeah.
And as a concession, we can now trade meat products and agricultural products. It's called sanitary and phytosanitary. Is that
SPS checks maybe? Yeah.
SPS? Yeah. So we could trade them with less paperwork between Europe.
I
So
think
that
basically food and drinks imported, exported, and reducing of checks and paperwork.
Yeah, so Northern Ireland's going to benefit with that because
Yes,
they can move
'cause
stuff backwards and forwards between Northern and Southern Ireland.
They really struggled when that came
Yeah.
in. I know when obviously I know Maliki very well, and Maliki, who's no longer in the industry, but he said it was just a nightmare.
Yeah, and when the news came out and it was like we've been sold down the river, fishermen have been stabbed in the back, and all of this, I was thinking, well, I'm reading something completely different.
So I thought I'm going to have a dig into it because I can't quite. Have I missed something?
So when we put our article together, I just thought, well, nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
If anything, they can sell more product to the EU market because here's what would really happen before, and it's happened to us twice over the last 2 months. So we've sent product to Netherlands and Belgium, and both pallets have been sent back for no reason other than apparently the paperwork wasn't filled out correctly. And some bureaucrat somewhere just said, yep, send this back. Whereas now that should stop happening. And that's all that's happened. Hopefully. But
the only problem that is it attaches us now to the European carbon
yeah,
market.
they were going to do something like that
Now
anyway.
that the problem is obviously that changes the cost of energy. Does it make it cheaper? Does it make it more expensive?
Everything's...
I can't find anything about it.
Because everything's
to be
moving
honest.
one way at the moment anyway, so
Yeah.
I don't... Yeah. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, nothing's really changed there in my mind.
I think there's a creep towards European... I know that they are denying that they want to be... The Labour Party want to rejoin Europe and there's going to be no... joining the common market, but they've also made huge amounts of sort of pledges and promises and broken every one of them. So,
but they've also done a trade deal with America too, and no one thought they were going to do that.
No,
So
that's true, yeah.
I just think it's just media whipping us all up into a frenzy. If I'm honest, I think that
And political.
and actually, in actual fact, whether you liked Brexit or not, to all of us, whichever side you fell on, it's nice to actually move on from something, because cutting off our nose to spite our face just because of Brexit was a foolish decision too. And at least there's an agreement to move on now.
Yeah. And it's an increasingly interconnected world.
Yeah, exactly. So absolutely. I think one thing I'd like to touch on, anybody made any plans for National Fish and Chip Day? Or, what's everyone's plans? Because that is round the corner now, isn't it?
Shall I go first?
Go on, sir.
We're doing a spend over a tenner and you can get a voucher for 10% off for the rest of
That's
June.
awesome, mate.
So we're not sort of hamstringing ourselves on.
Did you make that off peak any time in June?
No, we just said it's because it's going to be easy to manage for the staff. The people turning up with a voucher and saying no, we're going to take it. We just thought we'll push it, and then we'll just swallow the rest of June.
That's awesome, mate.
June tends to be a bit patchy for us because people thought of getting ready for holidays and stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we've all the promotions, and we're going to run it in parallel with the Talkbox Priya Day. So you walk in, you spend more than 10, you get a voucher, redeem that, and you're going to get the same voucher given to you when you come and spend. Obviously, the minimum spend anyway is the tenner for us anyway. So. You'll get the same voucher online. So it's just to promote National Fish and Chip Day, basically. Because obviously, I was listening to the Neoda ladies, and I just thought, I've always been bar humbug, And it's like, well, if you don't try it, we're not going to learn, are we? So so that's what we're doing anyway. We'll see.
Absolutely.
I shall report back as to see what a massive disaster or huge success it will be.
One thing I got pulled upon after the last Pod Squad, and it makes complete sense, and I've got no issue with saying when I'm wrong, I'll put my hands up. But I think I might be wrong here. So, I mentioned...
No. Hold on, I'm going to brace myself.
Yeah, I mentioned doing something like free
wrong.
fish and chips for care homes or something.
Record this. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's recorded anyway.
So I mentioned I mentioned doing free fish and chips or something for care homes. And actually, I got told afterwards that although it was very well intentioned, care homes are private businesses and very well funded, and people are actually quite wealthy if they're in a care home, or at least the care homes are quite wealthy. So,
well, interesting enough, we had a woman that works in the local care home, and we mentioned it to her, and she said, but we need gluten this, and we need this, that, and we've got this, you need to sort these allergens out, and these dietary requirements, and I just...
It's not worth it.
Hold on. She said, we've got sort of some residents have got really complex dietary needs, and if you're gonna do that, we're gonna have to talk about that. And I just thought, 10% off on a voucher would be much better. So
I just thought I just thought it was an interesting one. And
it's fair play, fair point.
Mark, what is it?
We're going with the horse box, Mark.
Oh yeah.
To Smales.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I think Austin's coming with some new variety of chips, and I haven't got the full brief on it. And then we're doing that, for the kids, we're doing that little fish thing. We've had some ceramic fish made, and I think I've said that we're going to do one golden fish, and I said, no, come on, let's have a few more than that. Yeah, it's a treasure hunt around where we are for kids, basically, to get them involved in National Fish and Chip Day.
Yeah.
Mark, what are you doing? Rumour has it that Mark's till's going to be broke that day.
Cash only.
What till, he says?
I can't. Account.
I can't even make anything up on the spot. No, to be honest, I will do something. Give me a day to scratch my head. I'll do something.
Day to scratch my head.
What can I say? I've been a busy boy.
Yeah. Have we touched on everything? We finished.
Do you know what we haven't done?
Go on.
We're not giving a shout out to our sister who couldn't
Yes,
be with us today.
I was meant to do that right at the beginning, but I had to jump on to fix David Miller's computer quickly. But she'd done her back in. I don't know where.
Has she described how she?
She just said she did it at the KV ball. I think she said. I swear she said that.
I don't think she did. She finished early.
Let me have a look then.
Yeah, I mean, she bailed quite early, did Kelly, didn't she?
I saw her and Tim.
I heard it 3 weeks ago on holiday. There you go.
She looks all right.
Yeah, she said it keeps coming and going, spasming, and so she's managed to get a physio appointment today as we speak. So
I hate the
we send our love, don't we?
Yeah,
we do.
It was a It was a good night at the Carefree Ball.
Yeah, and it was good.
really enjoyed
It's a
the
shame David
crowd.
Miller weren't there because it would have been.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
The
guys.
trifecta.
David, you got to come
It
to the
would have
Chippy
been
Chat
nice.
Ball. We'll have you there, no?
Yeah. Just I've got mum duties at the moment. My mum's 95, and
Do you want to bring her to the
looking
ball?
after her. Yeah, she did great. She sort you.
Will the-
she'd
will the-
sort you out
Will the
anyway.
Chippy Chat Ball have drag queen singers?
I don't know.
Well,
Ask-
I think I was
ask Austin will be
sat a bit
listening
too
to
close
this,
to the
so he'll
stage
tell us.
because at one point I had a lump in my throat.
Dear me.
You were sitting at the back of the room as well. It must have been a big lump.
I know. It
I
was.
bailed.
It was.
It's not my scene.
It was very 3D that performance, wasn't it?
It's not.
I was just listening to the two lads from
my
Barnsley.
attitude.
Bloody hell. What,
Yeah.
what- I haven't got a really good Barnsley accent for this, but they were not happy.
No, you
No,
haven't.
they weren't happy at all.
Who are those? Who are
You
those?
and Craig.
Why weren't we happy?
It was a good do. It ticked all the boxes. Had everything that you hoped for.
Were the dancers?
I see. I don't. I think it's just. I think that is what I expect from the Williamses. Like they love that sort of thing. I think it was hilarious.
My bag.
They put on a good do, don't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah,
You know.
But up to that point, yeah, I was on board, and then the drag queen singers came, and I thought, yeah.
To be fair, I would have gone outside if it was whatever, because I don't really like music in my ear anyway, and I've gone there to see
Yeah.
people. So there's nothing against
Yeah.
that, and people like that. So
I just wish at these events that dinner could be a quiet affair where you could talk, as opposed to not be able to hear the person sat next to you.
yeah, but it was
That's my only
for
problem.
me. It's a quiet affair once the music starts. So I go outside anyway. So it's just like
Yeah, but it'd be just nice to sit and have your meal in peace and quiet without. I mean, she had a cracking voice, the girl that was singing. Don't get me wrong.
yeah.
It's just,
But no, it was good, it was only down the road for me, so nice and easy.
Yeah.
It
I
was,
wish
it
all
was
events
really-
were a 14-minute away.
And who would
drive.
have thought that at the Belfry they started messing about with the greens at 5 o'clock in the morning? And who'd have thought the guy with the tractor drove under the window? So
I would have thought
so
that. To be
I
fair,
loaded the car up about 5:45, I think it was. There were people turning up with golf clubs at 5:45, and I thought, my God,
yeah, you
this
have to
is
start
dedication.
early there.
Yeah,
It was my first time back at the Belfry for quite a few years, and it was really nice
Yeah, it's lovely.
to catch up with some.
I tell you what, though, if
industry
anybody's near
friends.
there and you fancy a treat, they do really nice Sunday dinner. And it's not cheap, but it's really nice. So if you're ever passing and you think I'm hungry and I want something good, go there. I think it's the Ryder restaurant or something like that, or the Ryder Cafe. So I don't know, but it is really nice. But yeah,
My date for the evening looked stunning.
Kevin.
As well.
I thought I knew it wasn't going to be me.
He looked gorgeous. I think he shaved his head
But
specially.
the best one is we gave Sav my phone, David, to take a photo. And he was aimed at the floor, so literally there's 1 inch above us, and you could see the floor and our shoes. Bless him.
Kevin had some really
Oh yeah, his shoes were proper dapper.
Amazing
That's
shoes.
probably
It
what
was
Sav
like
was.
a 1930s gangster,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Like a New York mobster.
Well, he is a
Well,
monster.
such a shame I missed all that.
Yeah, you would have loved it, David. You would have loved it. The
Yeah.
gin was ace. So on that note, though, chaps, it's a shame Kelly's not here, like we said, and sorry we left it this long to explain why she's not here, but we just got carried away.
We wish you well, Kelly. We
Yeah.
wish you well.
And
You're missed.
and we'll leave it there. Have a great one, guys.
Thanks.
later.
Take care, everyone.
Ciao.
And that's a wraps, everyone. Another episode of the Ceres podcast, Podsquad. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to bring you these conversations and to share the mic with people that absolutely care about this industry. Don't forget to check out our newest product, the Ceres Heavy Duty Descaler. It's powerful, professional, and made to tackle the trickiest scale without damaging your equipment. It is really our new baby, and we're really proud of bringing out these great products that help you run your business. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you're in our WhatsApp announcement group or our mailing list, because that's where you'll get first dibs on new podcasts, new articles, special offers, competitions, and all the latest from the Ceres team. As always, we're here to help your business thrive with great products, proper support, and real conversations. Until next time, take care, and thanks again for listening.